And now we've come to the sort of wrap-up comments just before we end the workshop today. I'd first like to thank Dr. Califf, Dr. Abernethy, and Dr. Bernard for participating in the panel. Great comments, and thank you for being so responsive to the questions. I'd also like to thank all of our workshop participants throughout the 2 days for their thoughtful presentations, and the moderators for keeping us on time and for managing the Q&A sessions so effectively. What a powerful 2 days. I've tried throughout the 2 days to sort of keep a running tab of some of the major thoughts that are sticking with me throughout the 2 days. So I've captured them here. You know, we've heard from this broad base of stakeholders across government, academia, industry, consumers, patients, caregivers. And some of the things that stand out for me that we have to carry forward is just a reminder about the enormous individual heterogeneity in the older population. It's still not fully appreciated, and the need to make sure that this is being considered when clinical trials are being developed for 65 plus, 75 plus, 80 plus populations. Acknowledge the continued reluctance to include older adults in early stage trials. That was noted, and we were reminded that we really need to expect strong justification for any exclusion criteria as it relates to older adults. A lot of practice innovation in healthcare is happening, and in how we conduct clinical trials. A lot of this has really been spurred by the realities of navigating the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think that clinical trial researchers have learned that a lot of these process changes work, and that these changes may actually result in more efficient approaches for the long term in a post-COVID-19 environment. There seems to be considerable interest in making many of these changes more permanent. There are, of course, many clinical trial designs available that offer promise, in particular, applying them more aggressively, perhaps with older adult populations. We heard presentations around adaptive platform trial designs, home-based trials, mechanistic modeling, clinical trial simulation, of course, real-world data, and pragmatic clinical trials. The NIH inclusion across the lifespan work has helped to address the exclusion of older adults from clinical trials, and more work is ongoing. And there's in early September, the next summit on that work. Patients and caregivers, we're reminded, need to be full partners in clinical trials, and language is critical. I was really taken by the comment that we need to remember that patients respond to treatment. Their diseases may not. That is, patients don't fail. And I think that language issue is indeed very important as we're thinking about clinical trial work. We've also been reminded that clinical trials can be carried out in many environments, of course, the clinic, but at home, in barbershops, and in pharmacies as just some other case examples. FDA has been proactive in publishing guidance to help researchers continue clinical trials in the midst of the pandemic, and continues to update that guidance. I was caught as well by the phrase having to do with the realities of telehealth in the age of COVID-19, that access to home digital technology is access to healthcare. And it really reminds us of the need that we have in the United States to address this access issue, to make sure that broadband is fully available across geography and across socioeconomic divides. And finally, the question was asked, and I believe we all need to contemplate this as we look to the future. The question was asked, will this workshop lead to incremental change or to a sea change in the systems that impact the inclusion of older adults in clinical trials? And more broadly, will there be a sea change in the systems that perpetuate ongoing health disparities? That was very, very thoughtfully put by one of our panelists. A couple of important reminders for all of us. The link to the webcast videos and slides presented at the workshop will be posted on the workshop webpage sometime after the workshop, as soon as the National Academy staff can make the magic happen. The written proceedings that will be produced after this workshop will be a factual account of what was discussed at the workshop, and will be published by and as a product of the National Academies. This workshop, remind you, has been hosted by 3 standing roundtables of the National Academies: the Forum on Drug Discovery, Development, and Translation, the Forum on Aging, Disability, and Independence, and the National Cancer Policy Forum. And while this workshop is a standalone workshop, that is, it is not part of an ongoing consensus study by the National Academies, this workshop is an important addition to the work of these 3 roundtables. Finally, I'd like to again extend a hearty thank you to the planning committee that has worked over the past 5 months in shaping the workshop agenda, modifying it in response to COVID-19, and in identifying speakers for all the sessions. And the speakers just did a fabulous job over the past 2 days. And a big thank you to the National Academy staff, and in particular, Dr. Jennifer Hinners, for the continuous support provided in building out this 2-day workshop. I hope you've all found it compelling. I hope you will read the summary document that is put together, and I hope that it will indeed begin to catalyze a sea change in how older adults are included in clinical trials going forward. Thank you all again for joining us. This concludes our workshop.